Hey guys, welcome back to Teal Homestead. If you are new here, my name is Tiffany and I raise Creme d'Argent rabbits for meat, show, and breed preservation. I actually wasn't planning on making this video today, but I had 9 cull rabbits that needed to be butchered. So if butchering rabbits is something that is going to be bothersome to you, I would probably skip this video. There's a lot of butchering videos on YouTube already, but I find that a lot of them don't show things in detail. And there's a couple of little hacks that I like to do when I butcher rabbits that kind of makes the process go a little bit easier. I'm excited to share all of that with you guys, and you'll have to excuse the mess that I look like right now because I actually have already done 8 of them, so we've only got 1 left. One of the main reasons that I started raising rabbits for meat is because I am not a fan of factory farming. I'm not a fan of buying my food knowing that it has gone through a life that is just not great. So in raising my own rabbits for meat, I'm able to ensure that my rabbits get the best care possible. I know what they're eating. I know how they've been handled and all of that. So that's one of the primary reasons that we raise meat rabbits here. Rabbit is actually one of the best lean proteins that you can eat. It's considered a novel protein too, so a lot of the times people with digestive issues can digest rabbit just fine. The reason that these 9 rabbits are getting culled today is because they don't meet show standards. The American Rabbit Breeders Association has a standard of perfection, which is basically a book detailing all of the standards for each specific breed. And the breed that I raise, the Creme d'Argent, is a rare breed. It is considered a threatened breed by the Livestock Conservancy, so one of my main goals is to make sure that I'm breeding rabbits according to the standard of perfection and only selling rabbits that meet that standard so that other breeders are also set up well. The last thing that I would want is for somebody to get into creams and then realize the stock that they got is not the greatest. My rabbits usually go through like several weeks long of just being evaluated, being weighed, making sure they're up to weight, making sure that they look okay as, you know, would I sell this as a breeder? Would I sell this as a meat only type of rabbit, or is it like a show quality Creme d'Argent, or just should it be butchered? And so today I went through 3 litters. I've already butchered 4 out of those 3 litters, and now I'm doing 9 more today. And I'm feeling pretty confident about the ones that are left over, but again, they're gonna go through another evaluation process, and there might be 1 or 2 or 3 more that we do. I don't really like to overcomplicate butchering. There's only a handful of like tools that I actually use for the process. The first one being a very sharp knife, and the only thing I actually use this knife for is for cutting the head off. So you want it to be really sharp, and you want to be able to cut through, and as soon as they're dispatched so they can bleed out. That's really ideal when you're butchering animals, is you want them to bleed out as fast as possible. So that's really all I use the big knife for. My favorite tool that I use for the majority of the process is actually a art X-Acto knife. So that's what this looks like. I have this really nice soft grip for it, and this tiny blade here. You can buy replacement blades for it, so I always keep a nice pack of replacement blades for it. I usually get mine at like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and they really are, like, I see a lot of videos where people are using like a knife to cut around the legs at the very beginning, and then, you know, trying to make these really intricate cuts with like a big knife. But I really find that an X-Acto knife with its really small blade is really ideal for this entire process. And this blade, I can probably get through like 1 more rabbit with it, but I'm probably gonna have to change it after that. The cool thing about these is that they untwist at the bottom, and then you can pull the blade out and replace it with a replacement blade. So I really appreciate the X-Acto for the butchering process. It's really nice and helpful. The next thing that I would recommend having on hand is a pair of either like hoof trimmers or hedge trimmers, and I just kind of grab whatever is like not lost in the barn right now. I have like kind of a mess. We are planning on cementing the barn hopefully next week, and that'll be really nice. But right now my barn is a dirt floor and hay is like all over the place, and there's a lot of things that get lost in there. So today what I found is my hoof trimmers, and I actually use these for my goats. but I cleaned them for this process, and so a pair of hedge trimmers work just fine as well. Just basically cutting the feet off and the tail. Another thing that I have that I really like is this hanging gambrel here. And I actually just bought this off of Etsy, and there's a lot of people that make these. You can make them yourself. They actually probably wouldn't be that difficult to make, but that's what it looks like. It just hangs on my fence with a screw, and then this is like, let me see if I can focus on this. This is like wire, and it goes down into the rod, and then this is where you put their feet in and tighten it up. So that's my gambrel. And for the actual dispatch, I use the broomstick method using a piece of rebar. We've tried a lot of different methods for dispatch. We've tried choke chain method, if you've ever seen that. We actually have a hopper popper knockoff as well. But personally, I just feel like you can't go wrong with the broomstick method, and so that's why I use piece rebar. And it also helps that rebar kind of has like ribbing on it as well, so it kind of, there's friction there, so it kind of keeps them in place a little bit better than like your standard broom. And other than that, I just have my cooler out here, and I don't even bring the cooler out half the time because I'm usually not doing like 9 at once. Usually I like to spread it out a little bit more. But I have the cooler today because I have 9, and I actually have most of the butchered rabbits already in the cooler. Got one more to go. The Ziplocs are the organs, which our dogs eat the kidneys and the hearts, and then we eat the livers, or at least we eat some of the livers, and then the rest go to the cat and the dogs. But they are in very cold well water right now, just chilling. You do want to chill them pretty quickly after dispatch. And that is pretty much it. So here is my butchering station. Like I said, I don't like to overcomplicate it, so we just have our gambrel hanging right here. I was using that trash bag, but it is very full, so now I'm gonna be using this bucket here for like the guts and like all the stuff that we will not be keeping. And I have a hose right here because I like to spray off my tools, spray off my hands, and spray off the rabbit every once in a while. So we are going to go get the rabbit and then bring it over here, dispatch it, and then work very quickly to get the head off. So here is our last girl that we have to do. Get that open. And I actually remember the reason that she is getting culled. She actually is only like 5 pounds, and she's 4 months old. So she's very small. She should be more like 6 pounds at least. So yeah, that's why she's getting cold. She also doesn't have any silvering on her head, which is, you know, you can still use rabbits like that as breeders, but they do get dinged for not having any silvering on their heads. See, she's really fine in bone, and she's just she's not an ideal example of a Creme d'Argent. Okay guys, this is a different rabbit. I'm not going to show you the actual dispatch because I don't want to get in trouble with the YouTubes. So I'm just going to show you the process using a different rabbit. This guy's pretty, he's not going to get culled. So what I would typically do when culling a rabbit is I get them down on the ground, and then I get my piece of rebar, put it behind their neck. I'll put it behind their ears like this, and then I'll kind of steady it, put one foot on this side, grab both of their back legs, step on the other side, and then yank up with as much pressure as I can, and typically it breaks the neck immediately and they are dispatched. Typically it's an instant knockout, instant death, which is what we want. We don't want them to suffer needlessly, but yeah, that's how I typically do it. This is just the method that I find to be the most useful, especially doing butchering alone. My husband does prefer the hopper popper knockoff, but I just prefer this because it just feels more natural to me. So thanks for being our model, buddy. You're gonna go back to your cage now. So when you're butchering a rabbit, right after you dispatch them, they will jerk around, and it's normal. It's called death throes. All right, got her head off. And this is how we hang her from the gambrel. So the feet go in like this. hangs there. I'm gonna try to keep you guys as close to the details as possible. So we have the head off, and now the first thing that I like to do after the head is off is I like to cut with my X-Acto knife around the feet. You don't want to cut too deep, you just want to cut around where the skin is. And so once you cut all the way around, you can kind of just see, you know, the meat and the bone like that. I'm gonna flip her around so you guys can see me do this side as well. Just gently go around the feet with the X-Acto. Or leg, I guess, not really the foot. It's right under the heel right here is where I start. So now we've got both sides of the feet or legs cut around. So now what we need to do is we need to take our X-Acto and we need to cut all the way down the skin, all the way down to the pelvis on both sides. So we're kind of making a V, cutting through the skin. We don't want to cut into the meat because the bladder and poop and stuff is in there, and we don't want that to just be cut into. Basically what I'm going to do is I have my fingers kind of under the skin, and gently I'm going to cut down the leg. Be very careful with your X-Acto knife because it's very easy to cut yourself with them. Hopefully I don't do it on camera. But once you get a little further down, it's a lot easier to kind of cut down. So there's one side cut all the way down, and now we need to cut the other side. And with younger rabbits, it's a lot easier to cut their skin. Older rabbits have a little bit thicker skin, especially older bucks. I find that bucks have just like such thick skin, and sometimes it's really hard to cut them. So now I've got both cut down into a V shape all the way down here. I can actually take my fingers and put my fingers through right here, and then I'm just gonna cut like that. And now we have the rabbit ready to skin. So skinning a rabbit is actually really, really easy because a lot of the times people refer to it as like a banana peel. So you can actually take the skin and you can actually just pull on it and it'll start coming off. One of the tricks that I like to do is back here on the tail. I don't like to cut the tail off. I actually like to, like I said, you can just kind of peel the skin off at this point. So I actually like to get my fingers in back here and kind of pull away. So now we have like a little bit of separation right here. And now I can kind of pull down, and I actually just pulled the pelt straight off, the tail still attached. This is what I wanted. This is how I usually butcher my rabbits. I keep the tail on for now, and I'll show you why later. But so we're gonna go ahead and pull the rest of the pelt off, and I'll show you guys how to remove the pelt. So we have the rabbit to this point. You can really just pull the pelt down. I like to pull till I can see 2 arms there. You can either yank it off like that, that's how easy it is, or if it's not coming off easy, you can cut where the arms are, and that's actually what I got to do now. So that's where your hedge trimmers or hoof trimmers or whatever you decide to use come in handy. So where this little joint is where the foot bends, that's where I cut. So now the feet are off on the front. So we've got the pelt off. This is what our rabbit is looking like so far. At this point, I actually like to rinse off my rabbit because there's a little bit of fur from where you pulled the pelt off. So I'm gonna go ahead and rinse it. This is what our rabbit is looking like so far. And now what we need to do, this is hard to show without getting really close, but basically I pinch like the abdomen right here, and I just want to make a little slit right here. And that's all we need. We just need a little slit, and then we can tear open the abdomen and get the guts out. So like I said, just pinch the abdomen, take your X-Acto, and just make a little slit right there. Make it deep enough so you can get your finger in there, and then get your fingers in there and just tear it open. And now we've got all those guts in there. I'm gonna show you what each and every one of them is. This right here is the bladder, and you don't want to bust that. A lot of people say to cut it out. I actually prefer to tear it out because it's pretty easy just to tear it out. This is a girl, so this is the uterus in here. And intestines, stomach, more intestines. All of the intestines need to come out, and usually I just tear them straight out. Here's the stomach. You do not want to tear the stomach open. You just want to tear that out as well. But you don't want to tear the liver out because we want to save the liver. I always like to do a checkup on my rabbits' livers because you don't want to see like white spots on the liver, because that can mean hepatic coccidiosis, which is a form of coccidiosis that can stunt the growth of rabbits. So I always check their livers over really well. On every liver, there is a little green gallbladder right there. And you don't want the gallbladder. You want to get rid of that. You can usually just pinch the gallbladder off. I was trying to do it with one hand. It's kind of difficult. So yeah, we get rid of the gallbladder, and then we can go ahead and remove the liver. And that's what the liver looks like. This is a really healthy liver. I don't see any spots on it or anything, so that is a good sign. So we're gonna go ahead and put that in one of our Ziploc bags. Back in the rabbit we go. We have 2 kidneys, and we just wanna kind of pop these out. I don't eat the kidneys personally. Some people do, but I just don't really like the texture of them. So these get fed to my dogs. We're gonna put those in the Ziploc as well. And now we have this kind of harder membrane in here. And usually what I do with this membrane is I just tear it out, and underneath it you will find the heart and the lungs. So I'm gonna have to use 2 hands to tear that out, and then we'll continue on. I just kind of get in there and just kind of rip it out like that. And my chickens love it, so I just feed those to the chickens. Gotta throw it over the fence, and now they're all fighting over it. So inside the rabbit here, we've got the lungs, which are a very light pinkish color. And we just want to tear those out. And the esophagus actually came out with it. So this is what the esophagus looks like. And the lungs. The lungs are a really gross texture. I'm not a fan. But I am glad when the esophagus comes out at the same time. That's helpful. And then the last thing under here is the heart. And if you're fast enough when you're butchering, the heart actually is still beating. And a lot of the times I am fast enough, but I've been recording, so not today. But there's the heart. And then you'll notice that we still have a little bit of the intestine in here. So just a little bit of poop still in there. What are we gonna do about that? Well, this is my handy dandy little hack, and I have to show you guys this up close, so hang on just a minute. I know I can't be the first one to discover this, okay, but I feel like I haven't seen this on any rabbit butchering videos before. So the reason why I like to leave the tail on is because we have the tailbone here, but then connected to the tailbone, we have the intestine. I don't know, see that right there? Right there. That is the intestine, and it's connected to, well, the poop chute. That's why I like to leave the tail on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually cut the tailbone right here. And so then once the tail is cut, I can just pull the tail, and since we have the rabbit all opened up and all of the rest of the intestines are out, all these are just gonna go straight out with it. So I have my clippers here. I'm getting ready to cut just the bone of the tail. And so now that the tail is off, watch these right here come right out when the tail comes off. There it goes, straight out. That is the niftiest hack that I have found while butchering rabbits. Hopefully it was clear enough for you guys to see, but that's definitely been such a huge help to me for sure. Really, it's all about cleaning up the rabbit now that we're at this point. So take the uterus out, give that to the chickens, and we take the rabbit fat out. I'm not a really big fan of rabbit fat, the way the texture is. Anything you think you may have missed. And at the very end, once we're all done, give it a good spray. Get all the fur off, get all the blood. Once we got it all rinsed off, we just want to clip the legs off and get it off of here, put it in the cooler, and then we're done. And that, you guys, is how you butcher a rabbit in detail. And now basically what I do with them is I'll put them in the cooler, go up to the house, put them in the sink, and rinse them off. And then I do one of two things depending on what I have. I usually have poultry shrink bags, and I prefer those because they're really, really nice. I'll link them. I'll link an Amazon link down below for the poultry shrink bags that I usually get. Or if you don't have poultry shrink bags, the other thing that I do is I vacuum seal them. And that works really well too. I'm actually out of poultry shrink bags, so I'm going to be vacuum sealing all of these rabbits today. But one rabbit is enough to usually feed Jameson and I for 2 to 3 days, depending on what we make. So we really do appreciate the life of our rabbits, and it's very fulfilling to be able to produce your own meat for sure. I hope that this video was very helpful to you guys, and maybe it will also give you the confidence, if you haven't already started raising your own meat, to maybe take a step in that direction and maybe think about butchering your own food. And bear in mind that rabbits are incredibly versatile. They're very easy to house. They're very quiet, and we actually started doing meat rabbits when we were living in the suburbs. If you are thinking about dabbling into the homesteading lifestyle, the first 2 animals that I would always recommend to people is to look into rabbits and to look into chickens. Both of them are incredibly easy animals to get started with, and may I say that rabbits are also extremely addictive. There's chicken math, there's rabbit math. It can get out of hand quickly, so be warned. But today I am 9 rabbits lighter in my rabbitry, and I'm actually very excited for that. And I'm looking forward to having litters in the fall again, because we have taken a break for the summer, and I am greatly enjoying that break. But I'm gonna be so excited when we have more Creme d'Argent babies born here in the fall. If you guys found any part of this video helpful, comment down below, and I would love to know what part. I hope that this helped you on your homesteading journey. And with that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.